All right, welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, Mr. Nick Kendell with the trying to tame the mane.
Something's going on there. I don't know.
That hat is completely filled with hair, people.
It really is. I needed the dad trucker hat on this style. So, yeah, just got back from a couple days camping and good time fishing, socially distanced fishing with a buddy of mine, and back. The hair is wild. I actually had the mustache things kind of growing in there. The wife hates it, so the only time I can get away with it is when I'm going to be gone for a little bit. So back here now, storming all day and ready to talk some Denver Broncos football.
Yeah, if you hear a door slamming, it's because the wind is blowing like 80 miles an hour here. And the doors to the church keep blowing open. So I keep thinking somebody's coming in, and nope, it's just the wind taking the door.
I think you need to listen to the message there, Carl. Somebody's trying to open your doors.
I guess. I've been getting a lot of messages lately, lightning striking at my house. Almost
Basement
down
with poop.
Yes. Now doors are flying open. Our pets are falling off, all those kind of things.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully that last one doesn't date me too much. I'm hoping a lot of people have seen Dumb and Dumber, but
yeah. If you haven't, it's the off season. That is the starting homework assignment for you guys.
Yes. If you want to understand my humor, that is the movie you watch. And so, yeah, we're excited. We got a few different topics today, actually. We're almost overloaded with topics. We have, of course, PFF coming out with their not so glowing review of Drew Lock going 15th overall in the ESPN redraft.
Yeah.
Kind of making fun of him that his mom wouldn't even take him. We'll talk about that. And so then we're also going to talk about, since it is our 7,000 coming on with YouTube subscribers, we're going to talk about the top 7 draft picks under John Elway. And maybe if we got some time, get into the bottom 7. And we'll see how we match up on those. I'm interested to see how we went about that, because some of mine, it was kind of weird because some of his best drafts have been the last few years. So how much do you factor in potential compared to proven talent on the field?
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. We have different parameters, obviously, and coming at this, we haven't talked about it at all other than give your 7 best of the John Elway's era as the general manager. So it'll be interesting to see. But first, we probably should talk about the ESPN redraft and what Pro Football Focus had to say about it.
Well, let me let everybody know where they can find us. Got to get that in there as well. So you can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. Of course, the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. Make sure you're subscribing to our show and wherever you listen to podcasts. And we really would appreciate if you can leave a rating, YouTube comment, something. We always appreciate that. And of course, head on over to milehighhuddle.com. We have a lot of great content that's still coming out even during this off season. And of course, that's part of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. And also know that this podcast is powered by Overtime Media. So let's get into this. The PFF hating on Drew Lock.
I mean, Taylor's all his time already. We're kind of getting into it, and hopefully he'll turn him around this year. But they didn't like it. It's kind of a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy or a a bias involved, because we didn't like him going into it, so we're gonna continue to say that we don't like him.
Right. So, I think that's something that always sticks out to me, and I did find it interesting. Of all the top websites that had a top 100 big board, PFF did the worst of teams that are players that were actually taken in the top 100 of the last draft. And so, I mean, it is how they evaluate players compared to how the NFL evaluates players. You're starting to see a bigger discrepancy show up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because they're getting bigger and they're getting a lot more voices in there and they are not quite as united. I don't know what's going on there, but you can see that there is a lot more subjective information going into some of at least their grade side of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just wait and see, right? Like Drew Lock, we've said it before on here, we're going to keep it real with you. We're not going to be the hot take guys in it by any means. 5 games, he had 1 game that was really good, a few mediocre games, a game that wasn't that great. So, I mean, we'll wait and see. And we already have some comments coming in here. Yep.
We got to get Boynton. We got ourselves a cowboy here. Duke Boynton coming in. Appreciate it there. For Nick's hashtag may or may not be an adult beverage in this big old orange cup. Perna.
Yeah, it's definitely a potentially an adult beverage. So I also saw we had a Nick's Beer Fund coming in here as well from Terry, north of the border there up in Canada. Good to see you guys, and good to see Robert Caslow here. James is here. I see somebody in Iowa alert coming down here. We'll get to your questions, but obviously I thank everybody coming in here today. But PFF giving a hard time about the Denver Broncos, specifically Jeff Legwold, who's the reporter for ESPN covering the Broncos. And so the parameters, I think it's important to set it up, it was a complete redraft of the entire NFL league. Everybody was available to draft. It did snake, so picking, like let's say it was the Bengals picked first. They also had the 64th pick then, so it did snake. And you had 4 rounds. You had to take 1 quarterback, 1 offensive player, 1 defensive player, and a flex, so a non-quarterback flex. So the Broncos ended up walking out with Drew Lock at 15, Travis Kelce at 50, Isaiah Simmons listed as a linebacker here in the 3rd round at 79, and then Cortland Sutton at 114 in the 4th round. So pretty good overall get there, I would say. You know, obviously Travis Kelce, not the biggest fan of him, being a Denver fan. He gets a little bit of the theatrics get a little annoying there. Right. But Drew Lock going 15, and I think that is the one that's caused the most hullabaloo, I guess we'll call it that. Pro Football Focus's issue, obviously, Drew Lock, young quarterback, still coming in his 2nd year, but Matt Ryan went after him, Teddy Bridgewater went after him, Jimmy Garoppolo went after him, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Matt Stafford, and Kyler Murray. So I guess what did PFF have to say exactly about it?
Well, I mean, they pretty much just –
Carl.
What? I'm here.
Okay. You froze.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. They just pretty much said, again, there's a lot of other quarterbacks. They would have taken pretty much every quarterback that was taken in the 1st round of this last draft ahead of him. They would have taken a lot of other guys ahead of him. And, of course, they had their famous saying of even his own mom wouldn't have taken him at 15, all those kind of things. And so it is – you and I talked about this right before the show, and we talked about it in our Facebook chat with some of the other guys on our website. We even had some disagreements on how we would rank all the young guys. And right now it is. There's just a lot of unproven young talent in the NFL. There's this huge changing of the guard, Peyton Manning retiring, Ben Roethlisberger's probably not too far behind, Tom Brady not too far behind, Drew Brees. And so you have this rush of young guys coming in and a switch in how the NFL is kind of conducting themselves on offense too. And so you're needing a different type of quarterback compared to those true pocket passers to make it work. Mahomes, he was picked number 1.
Yeah, so I guess number 1 was Mahomes, number 2 Russell Wilson, number 3 Lamar Jackson, number 4 Deshaun Watson. 4 quarterbacks there, makes sense. Then Aaron Donald at 5, Ronnie Stanley at 6, Joey Bosa at 7, Drew Brees at 8, Dak Prescott at 9, Nick Bosa at 10, Carson Wentz at 11, Aaron Rodgers at 12, Joe Burrow at 13, Tom Brady at 14, and Drew Lock at 15. So that's how the first 15 stacked up for the Denver when Jeff Legwold and the Denver Broncos were on the clock.
Right. And so, again, you have a lot of these young guys who are very much bunched together. They've all had moments of greatness that they've shown. I mean, Baker Mayfield, his rookie season looked like he's going to be that next great star. And yes, I don't know how they got that name over us, but that's all right. We like our name. We've always been about building the Broncos. We've even said that before we had the name to the show, that's what we were about, is learning how to build a team. And so I'm okay with that. They can have that title. But yes. And then, of course, Sam Darnold, I was a huge fan of his coming out. Personally, I would take him ahead of Drew Lock. I just think he has a little bit higher upside. I think Drew Lock could end up having the better career, but that's more because of situation that he's in. Yeah, Sam Darnold is like in one of the worst situations. Bad coach, not a whole lot of weapons. The player they did take is a wide receiver that's going to take 2 to 3 years to develop, all those kind of things. So, yeah, it just there was a lot of factors that went into this, and I can understand why Jeff Legwold thought, hey, I think Drew Lock has the potential for a lot of for a very bright future. And really, when you're picking at 15th and you're taking the 11th quarterback, at that point, you're going to have to take some risk. I know some people have said Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan, those kind of guys, but we know what they are.
Yeah. I mean, a 5-year window is a big one. I could hear, I think it was James made a good point here. some kind of silly ones like Big Ben going when he did, but Drew Brees and Tom Brady that late, you might only have one season left. I just couldn't get behind that. I'd have no issue really going with, you have some anger coming in here. Sam Darnold over Drew Lock. It's a sample size thing. I mean, Sam Darnold is entering year 3 of his NFL career, and he's still younger than Joe Burrow. Will be a rookie this season. So Sam Darnold, really bad situation, but I still think a lot of talent is there. I think Daniel Jeremiah banks a drum from him the most. The one player here, I really am excited about Drew Lock. I can't emphasize that enough, but going Drew Lock before Kyler Murray, I'm out.
Yeah.
He's the one on there where it's like Kyler Murray, I would have been fine going with Kyler Murray at 6. I think he would have been the 5th quarterback off the board for me just because of how much talent he does have, the youth, the explosiveness as a runner and a thrower. So I'm a big Kyler Murray fan, especially in the air raid offense. So he's the only one I think I would go staunchly with over Drew Lock. But going Drew Lock at 15, considering what he showed last year, I don't think it's as much of a stretch as the Pro Football Focus guys are saying. He definitely should have been round 1, considering he's a young quarterback that's already shown the flashes that there is franchise quarterback potential.
Right. Well, and I do think, I know talking to Eric earlier today, he said no one would have taken Drew Lock in the first round other than Jeff Lakewold. I do disagree with that a little bit. I think there was somebody in the later 20s, 30 range that probably would have taken a chance on him. But yeah, Lakewold knows him. And I've always thought actually Lakewold is one of the more conservative Denver media people. When I read his articles where they do the lineup of ESPN writers for each of the teams, he usually picks the Broncos to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say usually 10 to 11 of the games he will pick the Broncos to lose. And so, like I said, he's just usually been a little bit more conservative. So it did surprise me a little bit that he would have that kind of confidence in Drew Lock. And so you have to remember, he is the guy that's hearing a lot of the inside information of what is Lock doing, how much does the team really believe in this guy. And I think they've shown a lot of signs this offseason how much they believe in him to be the future of this team. And I think he's doing a great job this offseason, leading practices, getting the young guys there finally to practice with him. He's just he's taken that leadership role and running with it.
Yeah. I mean, so far he's been saying all the right things. You love to hear the interviews, the poise he has. No moment has seemed too big for him. Now it's just, can he be that guy on the field? Because I've said it before, I've said it again. You know, the rapping Jeezy on the sideline. It's fun when you're beating Oakland by 2 points and you're about to kick off, or two scores and you're about to kick off the second half. But when you're getting your tail kicked in, and if he's still out there doing that kind of stuff, that can rub people the wrong way quickly. And not just, fans and coaches, but also guys in the locker room. So it's worth watching. I mean, I guess there's just a little bit of Baker Mayfield apprehension there. I don't think I don't want to use the word entitled, but that kind of, he doesn't rub me quite as much as Baker Mayfield did in the draft process. But I do think that there's somewhere on the scale there where if the Broncos do flame out this season, I could be a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if they start losing, you learn a lot about a person when they lose. I really liked Gerald Casey when he was talking about losing there and with the Titans, and saying he had to be a leader during that time to step up and continue to work hard and do all those kind of things. You need a guy like that when they are winning, you're still behind them. I know that was something that they always talked about with Aqib Talib. He was great in the locker room until they started losing. And then he became a very negative voice in the locker room that caused a lot of rifts with the coaching staff. I thought this is
go ahead. My hands are
up. Duke coming in with another super chat. Really appreciate that, Duke. And this is a great question, kind of saying, okay, what does he have to do to show this year even more that he is the guy for the next 5 years, like we're talking about with this thing here? In y'all's opinion, what mechanical refinements does Drew Lock need to work on?
Well, for me, I think the biggest thing is not inviting chaos. When things are clean, don't throw off your back foot. You lose accuracy, you lose velocity. And sometimes, too many times in college, it did start to get cleaned up last year, but there were times, even still last year, where he would be drifting, whether it be back or to the side, and invite pressure when there is a pocket there. So just, keeping the base, if you can keep that base stable, and because he does have that ability to make off-platform throws when he has to, if he can keep the base stable when there's not pressure, good pocket, that's when a majority of your quarterbacking is going to take place. And that's when you can have more accuracy. I mean, there's a couple balls where his footwork was muddy and the ball sailed on him. So just don't make it hard on yourself. Trust your mechanics. And then when things break down, that's when you can let that extra stuff kind of go. And you have to have that in today's league, but it's the other stuff that it's not always consistent with Locke.
Right. No, you're right. There were plenty of plays where, like you said, he either drifted. He really liked to drift to his left.
Yeah.
And that put a lot more pressure on Garrett Bowles. I don't want to talk too much about him today. I know that's been hampered too much on some of these shows, but
yeah, I saw you, Jody, talking about Bowles in the comments. Jody, if Bowles hurt you, I will come to Colorado and give you a hug. He hurt me too sometimes, but
and gotta love this. And see, Nick's got his little beard coming in too. Hashtag Carl's beard fun. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, it's coming in nice right now.
Yeah,
I got to trim up around the lips because the wife doesn't like kissing hair. I don't know why.
No comment. Let's moving right along. The biggest thing for me with Drew Lock, it's the mechanical stuff is concerning, but I think last year, I've said it on here before, they really had the training wheels on the offense. They did not ask him to do a lot, and when they did, sometimes it was great, and sometimes it kind of looked clunky, looked a little erratic. Not shocking, but just kind of getting through the processing quicker, making good decisions, and that was something also in college. I think there's a little bit of a connection there where quarterbacks with less arm talent, let's say a Gardner Minshew, they throw with much more anticipation because they have to. Drew Lock's got a hose. He can see it and throw it. And in the NFL, it's just, you're going to get tricked sometimes. So just a little bit more anticipation, a little bit better as far as making reads quickly and correctly. So, but I mean, he's improved every single year. So it's great.
And I did want to talk about this, but Locke was least sacked, wasn't he? And talked about maybe the drift helped. I would say, it wasn't, he took a lot more hits than he should have, than he needed to. I think that was the main thing this year, especially. He's just going to have to really trust that his interior pocket is going to hold up. The Broncos did a great job this offseason going and getting Cushenberry, getting Glasgow there to help in the middle. Reisner should improve his second year. You got to trust those interior guys to hold up to make life a lot easier for your tackles. You start drifting, you're making life hard on everybody because, one, they are expecting a quarterback that's going to step up. They have their backs turned to the quarterback. They don't know where he's going. This is why they always talk about with a quarterback that can move in the pocket and do a lot of things. Like it's great at times, but it's also infuriating as an offensive lineman because there's a lot of times you could actually be doing your job right and the quarterback just drifts right into you. And so that's the only thing is that he just sometimes does it a little too much. He's just got to get a little more control under it. And because it does then cause him to throw off his back foot when he starts getting that pressure, and it causes him to throw a little bit early. There was a few throws, like you said, that he made off that back foot. I think the Kansas City game, there's about 2 or 3 throws where he was on his back foot, and there's a couple of them that he really didn't have to be. And a couple of them got picked off, and it was bad. It's not what you want to see from your franchise guy. It was a learning experience for him. And he talked about that. He knows he can't do that. Yeah.
But once the bullets are flying, sometimes instinct can take over. So that'll be really telling this year if he can kind of improve that. And you did see him improve it. I like in college, clean pockets, and he's throwing off his back foot so much. He might as well be yelling Kobe, just like fading away when there's no reason to. And his accuracy would struggle because of that. So
He did definitely improve compared to what he did in college. So that's a great sign. Yeah, even preseason. Yeah. So that's a great sign of a guy that worked hard when he had the opportunity to work on those things, knows what are his weaknesses. I think that's some of the differences of a guy like Baker Mayfield you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes he gets a little bit too big of a head and believing he can do anything and everything he wants. And so, all right, Zyka Bowden coming in here with the super chat. All love guys, but Drew Lock greater than Sam Darnold.
I think this is a big thing where environment is so important.
Yeah.
Like if you put Sam Darnold in this Broncos offense, I think this Broncos team are going to the playoffs. I think if you put Drew Lock on that Jets team, they're in a world of trouble. So environment matters a lot for a young quarterback. Granted, at some point, especially after they get paid, you want them to be able to raise all ships. But early on, that environment is key.
It really is. I mean, you think about Patrick Mahomes. He fell right into the perfect situation. He had some great weapons from day one. a great coach that knew how to play to his strengths. And so to me, like if he goes to the Bears, let's say they take him instead of who they took, and
which was freaking
right,
Mitch Trubisky.
Right, Mitch Trubisky. And I don't think he's as successful.
Yeah.
Chicago doesn't have the weapons. They didn't have the coaching staff that he has there in Kansas City. And so I do think that there would be some more struggles compared to he'd still be a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, wherever he goes. I mean, there's some quarterbacks, they can go anywhere and still be a great quarterback. But even like Peyton Manning, part of the reason he picked the Denver Broncos was because they had some great young weapons in Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Julius Thomas. You know, they had some weapons that made it appealing. Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, a big part of why he wanted to leave New England, he had no weapons. He was getting frustrated there that last season. He hated those young guys and what they were doing. So weapons matter to these guys. And so, Sam Darnold, he's going to have his struggles, and he might be the more talented guy, but I do think Drew Lock probably puts up better stats.
Yeah, I mean, situation's key. The Drew Brees' first few seasons with the Chargers, I think they really struggled. He did not put up good stats. I think because he had one really good season, but he also had a year where he had more interceptions than touchdowns. Then he had a good season, got hurt, left and went to New Orleans, and now he's on his way to Canton. So obviously situation is key. But I mean, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock, you're splitting hairs there. I think though, would you take Kyler Murray or Sam Darnold? I
would take Kyler Murray.
Okay. So we can at least agree there. We don't need to turn this into a Kyler Murray podcast, but
no. But I would. Just his ability to run is such an added weapon in today's NFL that makes teams have to play a lot more zone coverage to keep their eyes on the quarterback and what they're doing. It really is such a huge weapon. Lamar Jackson has it. Patrick Mahomes he has it in a different way.
Yeah,
but it's still there that you need. Sam Darnold's never going to be that guy.
Yeah, I just am super impressed with Kyler Murray's arm talent.
Yeah,
his ability to hit windows down the field vertically and with the really tight release to get the velocity on it with his size. I mean, that's going to be quite the division race to watch this season. So before we keep talking, guys, make sure you're following us on Twitter at BTB Football Pod. This is the Building the Broncos podcast. And also make sure you're going over to huddleuppod.com like you're wearing this beautiful Building the Broncos podcast hat. I think it's my favorite one. I really like the ones that kind of have the white, different color font and then a different color here. So looking good. When you look good, you feel good. Also, speaking of looking good and feeling good, it would make me feel really good if you guys subscribed, liked, and shared the show. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without you guys. So we really do appreciate it. And speaking of all the subscribers, Mile High Huddle just passed 7,000 subscribers. Obviously, appreciate everybody who has subscribed. If you haven't done so yet, we really do appreciate it. And just to keep it in theme here with the 7, obviously John Elway's number, we're going to have John Elway's 7 best picks of his time as the general manager, just kind of culminating, passing that 7K mark here. So, Carl, I think we should do it 7-1.
Okay. Well, hold on. I did want to get this one in. Josh Allen or Drew Lock?
I'm taking Lock. I wouldn't argue if somebody took Allen because Allen does something that I don't think enough people appreciate. It's the Cam Newton ability where once you get in the 20, the offense changes because you can run quarterback power. And with how hard it is to score in the red zone, that having an option like that in the red zone is key. So I could see somebody going Allen in that regard. I just think Lock's a more natural passer. Yep. So I'll go with Lock in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to get that because that was another player that a lot of people were debating whether the Broncos should take or anything like that. But all right, number 7. Who's number 7 on your list?
Number 7 on my – okay, so first I got to say my honorable mentions because I have 3. So okay. Obviously I'm going to have to cheat no matter how I can. So these guys did not make my list, but I believe they do deserve an honorable mention. So John Elway's best picks of his time in the Broncos front office. So the 2011 draft to the 2020 draft. And I'm going to be honest, guys, I did not use the 2019 or the 2020 class just yet. Haven't seen enough yet. I couldn't in good faith bring those guys into it. So if you have any issues with that, take it up with Chad, take it up with PR. But number 7 for me, I have Matt Paredes. My honorable mentions. Goodness. Well, there's Matt Paredes, but I have Trevor Siemian, honorable mention, 7th round quarterback. To be able to flip him for a 5, I think, and get some starting ability out of him. Not a starter that you want, but a 7th round quarterback, that's a get. That deserves at least an honorable mention. Julius Thomas, the Broncos offense in 2013 isn't what it is without him. He was really good in a short burst. I believe he was a 4th-round pick in Elway's second draft. No,
first.
He was, yes, the first draft. So 4th-round pick in Elway's first draft, the 129th overall pick, tight end out of Portland State. So that one I think deserves honorable mention. And still in the same first draft as well, Orlando Franklin. He kind of fell off there towards the end of his contract, went to the Chargers there, wasn't healthy, but solid right tackle for a number of seasons, probably one of the Broncos' best right tackles in the Elway front office era, and also as a guard. So I think Julius Thomas, Trevor Siemian, and Orlando Franklin deserve an honorable mention in that regard. Number 7 for me is Matt Paredes. Broncos took him late, obviously stashed him a season on the practice squad. He was a 6th-round pick, though, and bang for your buck. I think that was a really good one by the Broncos, so I think he deserves a shout-out there. Matt Paredes, number 7 on my list.
Okay. Yeah, he was number 8 on my list, so he's one of my honorable mentions. I did go Bradley Chubb. He's my only player from the 2019 draft, 2019 draft. Or no, he was 2018. Sorry.
He's 2018.
Yeah, 2018. But just he showed enough his rookie year to prove he could become a top 10 pass rusher in the NFL. And the value of having that kind of player on the team, it's just insurmountable. And I just think he could be a true building block of the future. And so this one is a little bit based on potential, but he did show quite a bit in his rookie season to get himself that spot.
Fair enough. I did not have him on here just because I'm putting in value a little bit with the 5th overall pick. You're hoping for that and missing that one season. I'm waiting to see on Bradley Chubb. That being said, I think he's probably the Broncos' 2nd most valuable player if we were kind of ranking him that way behind Justin Simmons. So I just can't disagree. Number 6 for me, though, actually in that same draft, Cortland Sutton. I know it's only been 2 seasons so far, but goodness, Cortland Sutton looks like an emerging top 10, top 5 wide receiver. To get him in the 2nd round, to get a wide receiver one of the better young ones in the game, one of the best wide receivers under the age of 25, it's a great pick. I know it's early, but I'm super excited about what Sutton's going to be, what he already is, and I think that was a heck of a pick.
Yeah, number 6, Cortland Sutton. What are the odds? Yeah, no, you're right. This guy, he proved he is quarterback averse. He had 3 quarterbacks, performed with all 3 quarterbacks. Even when other talent was not on the other side, he showed incredible improvement from his rookie season to his 2nd season. He showed the natural talent his rookie season. He showed this is a guy that's going to work at his game, be a tough work. He's also a leader on the team. He was calling out veterans. We've talked about that on the podcast before. And so, yeah, he definitely deserves to be on this list, even though he's only been on the team for 2 seasons and only had 1 really great season. He is just that good. Yeah.
And I think if Bradley Chubb had a full season last year, he would have made this list. It's just with the 2 ACLs, I felt a little – because there's some other guys I wanted to highlight as well that deserved a shout-out. Number 5 for me, Danny Trevathan, linebacker out of the University of Kentucky, 6th-round pick, drafted 118th overall. Obviously was a big part of that Super Bowl defense, got paid by the Bears, is still in the league. For a 6th-round pick, I mean, that's a heck of a get. Linebackers, I know they're not as valuable as other positions, and I do actually knock him a bit for that, but still, that was a great pick. So I got Danny Trevathan as Elway's 5th best pick while his time in the front office, and we are including 2011 James.
Yes. So you know how much I love Danny.
Yeah.
And so he's higher on my list than you have him. Number 5 for me is Malik Jackson.
Okay.
That Super Bowl season, I mean, obviously Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, the secondary, the no-fly zone, they get all the attention. But what Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson were doing on the interior is what allowed that defense to do what they did. I mean, It just gave the freedom to the outside rushers to do what they wanted to do on every single play. And Malik Jackson, just the last great interior pass rusher the Broncos had. Derek Wolfe, he's above average at it, but he's not great at it. Malik Jackson's better. I put him down here because obviously only 4 years with the team, didn't get that second contract with him. So I get him bumped down just a little bit because of that.
Well, my number 4 is Malik Jackson, just because not only did he go out there, have one of the reasons the Broncos won the Super Bowl. I mean, people talk about Tom Brady having nightmares about Von Miller, but Malik Jackson absolutely assaulted Tom Brady in that AFC Championship game. I mean, it was incredible. Granted, whoever that Patriots center / left guard, I think it was the center, never played another game. I think it was Brian Stork. Like that was his last game.
Yeah.
So, and then Dante Scarnecchia came right back after that. But Malik Jackson, I believe he did net the Broncos the 3rd round compensatory pick as well.
Yeah.
That might have been Brock Osweiler. I know there's a little bit of fuzziness there with the Russell Okung stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But number 4 for Malik Jackson, interior pass rusher, one of the better ones the Broncos have had in the last decade. Got paid not only big at Jacksonville, but then got paid big by the Eagles as well. So that was a heck of a get, and a 5th round pick. I think that needs to be, we're talking a little bit of value here too. If you can get a Malik Jackson in the 5th round, you're doing well.
Right. So number 4 for me, Danny Trevathan.
Okay.
I mean, you've already talked about him. I've told you before, I think he was the heart of that defense. He was the try hard, do everything you could possibly need. They left him on an island for a lot of different coverages, and a couple of them, they got a little lucky there in that Patriots game where they ran those wheel routes with the running backs and enough pressure got there where the guy got overthrown. But no, Danny Trevathan, just great player, gave his all in every situation, and another guy that went off and got himself paid. But I loved watching him. I go back to the Cowboys Broncos game in 2013, that 52-49 game, and Trevathan was the one that secured victory with that big interception. Like that was not a great defense because of injuries, but he was the guy when they absolutely needed to play, he came up with it.
Yeah. I was in the backyard when that happened. My dad called out to me saying, Trevathan just intercepted. I couldn't watch it anymore. That game was too much emotion going on for me. So Flex coming in here. Awesome. Finally caught you guys live. Appreciate it very much. And then Douglas Gray coming in. My favorite podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. If you guys like us the best, make sure you go into the other podcast and let them know. No, just kidding. We really do appreciate it. You guys doing this live, and everybody coming in here and talking. Obviously, thought Chubb would be higher. I mean, early picks, there's a little bit of a bias towards players that have been in the league longer that could obviously contribute more value. Right. So that's just inherent nature to this. It
would not surprise me to see Bradley Chubb number 2 on this list by the end of his career.
Heck, 3 years from now. Yeah, it's possible.
Right.
So speaking of a guy who's really cemented himself, number 3 for me, I couldn't go higher just because of the overall career impact to date. But number 3 is Justin Simmons. He's been really good. His rookie season, a little bit up and down, but years 2 and 3, really good. Year 4, I mean, he's literally arguably one of the best safeties in football. You could make that argument. He's the best safety in football. He's a great scheme fit and a great person. So the Broncos, who knows, with everything going on in the world, the I guess medically speaking, I don't know if we're allowed to say those words because of YouTube, but with the health crisis going on currently, that is we're not sure if Simmons is going to get that big contract or how it's going to be structured, et cetera, but he deserves to be paid. He's easily in the top 3. He was my favorite pick of that class. And man, he has turned out better than I could have even expected. So really big fan of Justin Simmons coming in number 3 here.
I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same top 3 then.
Okay. Yep.
I'm pretty sure. It surprised me if we didn't. So Justin Simmons, number 3 for me as well. Like I said, he's proved himself to be just an absolute leader on the team, leader in the community.
Yeah.
Great player on the field, can do everything you could ever ask him to do. Perfect fit in this system. Get this man paid.
Yeah. So then number 2, Derek Wolfe. Never been the most dominant guy, but the fact that he did it here for this long, as good as he did, the Broncos trading down, getting extra capital, and still getting him. Never been I think probably 5 years from now, we can talk about this, and Justin Simmons will be higher. Hopefully Drew Lock will be on here too. I didn't include Drew Lock. I didn't include Noah Fant, Dalton Reisner. So there's some guys in there we can talk about soon. But I think as it currently stands, Derek Wolfe at 2, been a culture guy for them, been so consistent, and Von Miller wouldn't be Von Miller without Derek Wolfe next to him for his career. So
I saw a stat that said games played with Derek Wolfe, he averages, I think it's right at like a sack a game. Games without, it drops to like half a sack a game.
Significant. So that might speak not as much, not to be the negative Nancy, but that also probably speaks as much to the person replacing Derek Wolfe as it does Derek Wolfe, because the Broncos haven't had incredible depth at that 5 technique kind of position,
right?
After Jackson left specifically, but
right. Well, right. No, you're right. And Derek Wolfe, he knows exactly what Von Miller wants him to do. there's that communication between those two that's easy to see on any given play. That Derek Wolfe is the unsung hero on a lot of Von Miller sacks. If you go back and watch, where he takes on that tackle to allow Von Miller to come in on the inside. He definitely deserves to be number 2 on this list. He's been just perfect.
Yeah, I wasn't mowing the lawn, but I was just back because I was way too nervous. That Dallas-Denver game, I was too emotionally invested at that point with how exciting and back and forth it was. I needed to back off until the Broncos got the ball again, because no matter what on defense, they're giving up touchdowns left and right. So I'm like, I don't want to watch this. It's going to be a touchdown. Danny Trevathan intercepts it, and the rest is history. Yeah,
the only game that I have walked out when it was really close like that was the Broncos Patriots in the 2015 playoffs.
The Malik Jackson game.
Yep.
So
just their little comeback there at the end. Oh my gosh, that 2-point conversion. I walked out of the room. I'm like, tell me what happens. And when they said the ball's knocked up in the air, I'm like, oh my gosh, if Gronk catches this, I am going to throw something at the TV. Yeah. But that one worked out well. So of course, then our number 1 guy, Mr. Von Miller. I mean, who else? Hall of Fame player. You couldn't ask for a better first pick in the John Elway era.
Yeah. Broncos got lucky that they had that pick that early in 2011.
Yeah.
Because that draft was, I mean, it could go down as one of the best drafts ever. There was that draft, whatever that year that they had all like the quarterbacks in it, like John Elway and Jim Kelly and some other guys. Yeah. But 2011 is the other one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, at least it wasn't was it the 2013 draft where the Chiefs had the number 1 overall?
Eric Fisher.
At least it wasn't that draft. Man. Sometimes you got to get a little lucky when you're bad.
Yep.
To get that talent, I think of like Indy, the one year that they're bad. Of course, Andrew Luck is in the draft,
and they soil it.
It's true. They still, that was still bad, but great list. Pretty much.
I see some comments coming in here actually about Gerald Casey. Derek Wolfe, I do think that Gerald Casey is an improvement on Derek Wolfe, especially as a pass rusher. But just looking at the overall body of work, I think it's fair to say Wolfe was definitely in the top 3. And it's just the years of solid play. He's not going to be a Ring of Famer, probably. But, he's not like DT in level of importance and whatnot. But still, that was a good pick. They traded back. They were able to get many years of good play out of him. He took a under market deal, which actually turned out to be relatively close to market deal.
Right.
After he had the injuries later on. But overall, good career, and definitely a guy that I think, obviously, we're going to see how these next couple of drafts turn out for John Elway and the Broncos, but Derek Wolfe is going to stay in the top 7.
Right. So, and yes, if we could have included undrafted free agents, they probably would have taken a couple of these guys out.
Chris Harris Jr. would have been number 2.
Yes, he would have been number 2. CJ Anderson.
Honorable.
I probably wouldn't have made him on my list. Shaq Barrett more because of what he's doing now than he was good with the Broncos. He's great with Tampa Bay. And we'll see if he can. Yeah. Well, again, it's 2 years. That's the hard part of distinguishing. And then, of course, positional value. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Coming in here with another super chat from Zyka Bowden. Is it fair to say Drew's rookie deal is Super Bowl or bust? Yes. I mean, it's become pretty obvious in the NFL. You pay your quarterback big money. They either have to be Hall of Fame level to be able to compete for Super Bowls, or you have to win on their rookie contract.
Yep.
It becomes so hard to build a strong enough team around them. You have to get really lucky in the draft. You have to get really lucky with injuries, all those kind of things, because just depth always gets hurt when you pay your guy. And quarterback contracts are just getting more and more out of control.
And I would even argue, though, still, like, no matter what the Chiefs are going to pay Patrick Mahomes, it's probably not enough.
Yeah.
He probably deserves more than what he'll get paid just because he's a different tier.
Right. But, yeah. And that's just it. Like I said, if you have one of the top 3 quarterbacks, it doesn't really matter. I would say that the Seahawks over the last couple of years, they have not had a great roster around Russell Wilson, but they've still been playoff contenders because Russell Wilson.
Yep.
I mean, that just is such a nice piece to have in your back pocket. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is another that he's been able to do that. Tom Brady, he's usually had pretty good teams around him. and great coaches, of course. But yeah, he's been able to play above that. Peyton Manning, obviously, you saw without Peyton Manning, they're a 2-14 team.
Yeah.
With him, they're a 12-4 team.
Yeah. It's definitely a good one. And Miller 707 champ coming in. What's up, Broncos fam? I hope everyone's doing well. Go Denver. Appreciate that, Miller. And hopefully you're doing well. Also, David Marker coming in. Have not been this excited for football since Peyton. Sky's the limit. It's entirely up to him. I think it means lock. Always puts a great team on paper. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Go Broncos. And I can definitely agree with that. I was excited. I guess I could argue I was excited about 2016 as well, especially after that Cowboys game when they held Ezekiel Elliott to like nothing after he was incredible his rookie season.
8 yards. Yep.
Yeah. And I was excited then, but it fell apart very quickly because obviously Trevor Siemian wasn't exactly the guy. The offense was missing talent, a little bit of disconnect in the locker room going on. So I feel very good about it. It's not just, the player, it is the players, but it's not just the players on the field. It's also off the field. It really does feel like they've grabbed and got a bunch of good, young, exciting players who are as engaging with what they have to say and how they act and whatnot as how they're playing on the field, which is good for us.
Right. Yeah. This is the team that definitely brings about the most excitement. I do worry a little bit, just the youth on the team, that maybe this isn't the year. 2021 is more the opportunity for the Broncos because Patrick Mahomes will have to be paid. So Chiefs will have to lose a little bit of talent at that time. Maybe the Broncos, all their young players start coming together, looking good. Maybe that's the season the Broncos could dethrone the Chiefs kind of thing. But we'll have to see. I don't know. It just, like I said, just matters how quickly they can come together, how quickly the new offensive staff can get them all up to speed and everybody ready to go. I think it's great that all of the offensive players right now are in Denver. Finally, KJ Hamler got there this last week. And so all of them are actually going to have about a month to work together. And I almost think they might get more time working together this offseason than they would have if they had a regular offseason, just because they've been forced to try to figure out their own thing. And they seem to be putting in the work. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, and maybe some of the other possible distractions that come with, being in a big new city in the summertime will not be there as well. I'm a married man. I haven't been clubbing in a long time. But, talking about some young guys, some young single guys in a new city with some money, I would not fault them for going out there and having some fun, but maybe not in the current environment. So, Carl, did you come up with a list also of the biggest busts, the top 7 busts of the Elway era?
I did not come up with the list, but I have in my head quite a few names here. But I wanted to get to Justin Fogel coming in here with the super chat. Thanks for all that you guys do. I never miss an episode. Also, Carl, I was curious if there was any way I could watch any of your sermons online. Yes. You can go to either my Facebook page, just look up Carl Dumler, or you can go to my church's Facebook page, Hoxie Christian Church, and we've recorded, at least especially the last few months, all the sermons. So, yeah, if you want to go see them, that's a great place to go.
Well, awesome. And so the biggest busts, top 7 busts, again, 7,000 subscribers on Mile High Huddle's YouTube page, hoping to get it to 10,000 by the end of the off season. So guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, yada, yada. We really appreciate that. But the biggest busts of the John Elway general manager era, and I have my honorable mentions again because I cheat and I have more to say than I ever should. But my 3 honorable mentions, all the same position, all day 2 running backs. Don't draft a running back in round 1. Don't even draft a running back in round 2, guys. It doesn't turn out very good normally. And for the Broncos here, Monte Ball, obviously honorable mention because he had an addiction issue with alcohol. But he had one good season, but taking a running back that high didn't work out for them. Royce Freeman, another one, honorable mention. I know he's still here. He's coming up on, his 3rd season, but the Broncos aren't paying Melvin Gordon if they have good thoughts about Royce Freeman. Let's just put that out there. And then Ronnie Hillman. So all 3 of my honorable mentions, running backs that just none of them lived up to the hype. And I know they drafted all 3 early. Man, don't draft running backs early, guys. It just does not tend to work out. Number 7 for me, Tyson Brylo. Obviously, he had that horrible game. He pretty much made Vic Beasley's career with the Falcons in that single game with Paxton Lynch playing back there. What an ugly football game. But the Broncos were able to trade Tyson Brylo, a former 2nd-round pick, for a 5th, I believe, from the Falcons. So I guess you have a little bit of return on that, but Tyson Brylo never was that great. So he's number 7 for me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go number 7, Jerry Jeudy. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Brylo is a good one. Unfortunately, the offensive linemen, unless they were taken like 6th round or later, they haven't seemed to work out until the last couple drafts. So it's been kind of an issue there. But looking around, it'd probably be between Brylo or maybe Sylvester Williams.
Okay. So Sylvester Williams did not make my list just because I'm grading him partially against how horrible that 2013 class was.
Okay. So
yes, you want to get more out of your first round pick. That 2013 class was not very good. And there was some talent later on, but that first round especially, not good. What a swing and a miss season. Number 6 for me, talking about swinging and a miss. Number 6 is Garrett Bowles. First round pick, first offensive tackle taken. Obviously, the Ryan Ramczyk pick happening later on, that makes that hurt just that much more. Garrett Bowles, he has been quote unquote serviceable and has played, majority of his, or almost entirety of his 3 years in the NFL. But first round pick, gonna grade him a little bit more harshly. He does deserve to be on this list, so I have him at 6.
Okay. All right. Well, James Campbell coming in here with the super chat. Appreciate that, James. Great work as always, Carl plus Nick. # Nick's Beer Fund. There you go, buddy. And Pabby coming in here. Really appreciate that. And thank you guys for all of you. Go Broncos. Yes. Thank you.
27 for Steve Atwater.
Perfect.
Do you have a number 6?
So this is probably where I would go. I would probably go Cody Latimer.
Okay. Cody Latimer. Since you don't have a list, I'll just do mine.
Okay.
You can give me your reaction. So
yep.
Number 6, so 7, again, I had Tyson Brylo. 6, I had Garrett Bowles. 5, I had Brendan Langley. You took a guy 3rd round. I know it was a compensatory pick, but we didn't even see him, hardly at all. And you took a guy who was a wide receiver that played cornerback at Lamar and wasn't comfortable going backwards in day 2 of the NFL draft. That's really bad. So 5, Brendan Langley, not a good pick there. Number 4, sticking on guys, day 2 picks that have not contributed. DeMarcus Walker. I know that there was a good amount of hype in regards to the sack output he had. I believe he was ACC Defensive Player of the Year that season, but there's a reason he has not been seeing the field. And I know the sacks, they're okay, but when I watch the tape, he's just not impactful. It's a lot of cleanup sacks, and I know he does have a good rip move. He can get pressure, secondary pressure, if somebody else helps create for him in front of him. But this is year 4 for him. He's still a game day inactive most weeks. DeMarcus Walker has not been a good pick. So 4 for me, DeMarcus Walker. Number 3, I have Carlos Henderson, a guy that it was, Vance Joseph's brother, I believe, was a wide receiver coach for Louisiana Tech at that time. And Carlos Henderson, I got to admit, I was excited about him. He was one of the more fun wide receivers to watch in that class, and just turned out to be not very smart and had got in trouble with drugs. So, there you go. What are you going to do? And number 2, I actually have Cody Latimer here at number 2, and I'm actually grading Cody Latimer a little bit more strictly just because of how good that 2014 wide receiver class was. I mean, you're talking about, obviously, when Odell Beckham was in it, Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson. Was Michael Thomas in that one too? I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was an incredible draft class.
Yeah.
And you end up walking out with Cody Latimer.
Didn't they trade up for him too?
I believe they did. Yes. So that absolutely killed me. I'm going to be a little bit harsher on Cody Latimer in hindsight because of that. Devontae Adams was also in that class, extremely talented. Mike Evans, that Paul Richardson. So Cody Latimer, Jarvis Landry also. So not good. That was a bad pick. And then number 1, the biggest bust, probably obvious, Paxton Lynch. Broncos kind of in a poor spot because Peyton Manning left. You don't have any options besides Mark Sanchez and Trevor Siemian. You put yourself in a desperate position and you go trade up for Paxton Lynch, who ends up being just a mega bust. So that hurt. So that's the biggest one. So any thoughts?
No, I mean, hard to disagree with that list. Anybody that doesn't have Paxton at the top, you're wrong. The thing about that one was it not only impacted the team just in not finding their quarterback, they spent 3 years waiting, hoping that he would develop.
Yep.
And so that was 3 more years of delaying. And that's why you've had this window now where the team has been losing, because they didn't invest in the quarterback position, just hoping this guy's going to turn things around, that things are going to all of a sudden click for him. So it's the fact that he hurt so many seasons by that draft pick is what, for me, makes him go over the top as one of the worst picks in Broncos history.
Yeah, and I know some people will, just because they have a little bit more, I guess, celebrity attached to their name, but a guy like Shane Ray or Bradley Roby, who, there was a little bit of hype to them coming in. They didn't really live up to it, but they still were contributors,
right? Especially
for that Super Bowl team as well. So I know that you want a little bit better return on the first round pick there, but I think given how they contributed, and also Shane Ray had a hand injury that totally just derailed his career. That
right. I can understand Shane Ray a little bit more being on the list than Bradley Roby. Yeah. Roby at one point was considered a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. I remember NFL.com, they'd put out their top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL, and they'd have 3 Broncos on it.
Yeah.
And talk about how Bradley Roby could be the top one of the group here in the next couple of years. He's still getting paid. I mean, he's still gotten decent money there at Houston. And I mean, it's not elite money, but it's still above average money.
It's big money.
Yeah. So he's not a bust by any means. And like you said, he contributed to the Super Bowl. He made some great plays that season. The scoop and score against the Chiefs. Yes. That was a pretty big play on the season that kind of defined things, really turned things towards, hey, this is an elite defense. But all right, wanted to get to James Campbell here coming in with another super chat. So just wondered if you had some quick thoughts on Paris Ford. I'm getting some serious K-Jax vibes with his closing speed and hitting ability.
Well, I have not gotten much work on the safeties yet in this draft class. So I did see that clip I believe you're talking about with Paris Ford running down that Virginia quarterback, Bryce Perkins, from the other side of the field and stopping him before he could run in for a touchdown, which was pretty incredible. But that's about the extent of my exposure to Paris Ford. I am pretty impressed with that Pitt defense, though. That's a team I'm going to be tuning into this season, and especially when they play Clemson. So watch for Pitt. They also have an edge rusher who is really talented. So it'll be interesting. Pat Narduzzi's done a heck of a job there.
And then James Campbell coming in with his list: Paxton Lynch, Carlos Henderson, Latimer, Brylo, Ray, Langley, Monty Ball, and then honorable mention Schofield, Butt, and Brock Osweiler.
I'll take exception to Brock Osweiler. I know that there's a little bit of issues with, obviously, it was the Russell Wilson draft. God bless it. Can you imagine if they would take in Russell Wilson? Man. But Brock Osweiler, without him, you don't get the number 1 seed because he goes, 5-2 when Peyton Manning was out.
Yep.
You don't get a 3rd round comp pick back, which granted the Broncos didn't use it the best. But still, did that end up being Did that end up being? No, I can't remember. That might have actually ended up being Brendan Langley. So who cares? But you get a return on the investment, right? With Brock Osweiler leaving. So
right, you use a 2nd round pick, get him for 4 years. He helps you with your 7 games when Peyton Manning's out, and then you get 3rd round return. That's not bad. It's not great. I mean, you hope a 2nd round quarterback can turn into something. You don't use a 2nd round pick on a guy you don't hope to become a starter, obviously. But I do understand a little bit that he didn't become the guy.
Yeah.
Especially when you, like you said, you had Russell Wilson later in that draft. You had a couple other guys.
Nick Foles.
Yeah, Nick Foles went later on in that draft. Was that who else was in that one? Seems like there's one other late round quarterback that would have been nice to have.
I can't remember anymore. I remember Nick Foles and Russell Wilson went after him, and both those guys arguably are better than Osweiler. So obviously Russell Wilson is. Don't know about Nick Foles, honestly, in the heyday. Nick Foles got hot at the right time and had a good team around him, so we won't have to debate that too much.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Oh, yes, you are correct.
Yep. Okay, that's who I was thinking of. Yep.
The 2012 draft. Yep, you're right. So going to get yelled at again. John Pinette voice. Pabby's making a run for MHH Queenhood. MHH loves Pabby. MHH family loves Pabby. Yes, we do. Good comment there. Appreciate it. And here we go. Sylvester Williams should be on that list. He was for Carl.
Yeah.
He was okay in the Super Bowl run, and it was that 2013 draft. There's a little bit of a curve there because everybody flunked. It's like that test where everybody did terrible. The teacher's like, well, I must have been teaching wrong. So I have to curve this test. Otherwise, everybody's getting a D at best.
Yeah.
So that's how I look back with Sylvester Williams.
And I do just want to say we can't have 2 queens.
Yes, me number one. So, no, that's obviously, I guess they don't have really much else to talk about today. Do you have anything else you want to discuss before we get on out of here?
No, I think, we covered what we wanted to cover here, and I just appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today, and lots of great questions and thoughts on everything in the list, and it's appreciate everyone contributing their list. Maybe if we get to 8,000, we'll have to do like the top 8 off-season moves, not just draft, but off-season moves that the Broncos have made under Elway, and then the top 8 are terrible moves that have been, very costly to the team.
Everything they've done at right tackle. That's literally going to be the entire list. Right tackle.
Yeah. This is kind of interesting from Buona Beast. Is it weird that Lynch is not 100% number 1 for me because I had zero hype for him?
I think so, just because he's still a first-round pick at quarterback, and you traded up to get him. So that's my biggest issue. I guess if you didn't have expectations for him, that can help you personally. But I don't know. He's such a bust. He's a massive, massive bust, and it's quarterback. It's set the team back 3-4 years. Yeah.
Whether you expected him to bust or not, it still was that detrimental to the team. Yeah. You think about that next draft, the quarterbacks that went.
Yep.
I don't even want to say their names because it just hurts so much that those could have been the guys. If they just would have said, you know what, let's go with our 7th round guy this year, see what happens. Next year, let's go get our guy.
Could have been Chris Jones and Patrick Mahomes, but we'll never know. That's a different reality. Unfortunately, not the one that we're in, but and also, unfortunately, I think that's about it. Time for us to get on out of here. Guys, you can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Kendell MHH. Make sure you go to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. Guys, we've said it again. We'll say it multiple times. Make sure you go like, subscribe, and share the show if you do appreciate it. Make sure you go to huddleuppod.com. Check out this fine hat. That's a microphone there. I think Luke was very confused. He thought it was a football. So that's a microphone, folks, in case you've never seen one before. I know I got the aviator headset going on here. But, do appreciate you guys, obviously, the Building the Broncos podcast here, but many other shows. There's obviously the Mile High Insiders every Saturday coming now, the Huddle Up podcast, the Dove Valley Deep Divers. We're bringing you Broncos content 7 days a week. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Your support can help us continue to bring you these Denver Bronco deep dives. And you can follow the show and all other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to these. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, anything you want to leave to the listeners before we get on up out of here?
Just kind of like you said, head over to huddleuppod.com for the Building the Broncos merch. You can get that awesome hat. I still haven't found mine yet. The daughter hid this one very good. She's getting better, which is not a good thing for me. Thankfully, it wasn't the wallet this time. But yes, but no, pick up one of those hats. We got T-shirts. We've got a little bit of everything. So head on over.
Yep, and get some personal news on my end. Getting the puppy Thursday, so that'll be fun.
Did you get the name yet?
I think so.
You gonna save it?
I think I'm gonna save it.
Okay.
But I think so. So appreciate you guys very much. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Go Broncos.